Welcome to the Life Podcast, where life stands for live inspired fully every day. Join our host, world-class speaker, executive coach, and leadership strategist, Anissa Rashad. Each week, as she sits down for an intimate conversation with business executives, influencers, and artists who are at the top of their game to reveal the strategies they use to excel in their respective fields and their personal lives by unpacking their spirit. Each episode is guaranteed to help you lift a load, tackle a problem, gain a new perspective, while having a laugh in the process. Now here's your host, Anissa Rashad. Today we are excited to be interviewing Nicole Hancock-Husband of Warner Brothers Television. Hello, Nicole.
Hello.
Welcome to the Life Podcast.
Thank you for having me.
We're super, super excited to have you. And I would just like to kind of jump right in. Mm-hmm. So our audience and our listeners, they don't know you. They haven't met you. So tell me something about yourself that most people, even the people that think they know you well, may not know. Like nothing. We don't want to hear the stuff that they can Google and find out because they don't do that. We want to just hear something that about you that they may not know.
That they may not know. Well, it would take some time to figure this out. So people always think I'm from Ohio because I went to
Ohio State University.
Yes, let's get it right.
Yes, right.
And my parents lived in Ohio for 26 years. So that's always where I was going home to. But I'm not actually from there. I was born in New York City. I lived in upstate New York. I lived in Maryland. I then lived in Ohio, then Denver, then D.C., then I've lived all over. But the interesting thing is that for the first 21 years of my life, I spent 7 years in 3 different states. So
really?
You would have to really dig to figure that out. So it's like a little fun fact.
Oh, thank you. So Ohio. And so what is it like, I heard you say D.C., so I know you went to law school.
Yes.
At Howard University.
I did indeed, HU.
So,
yes.
My husband's alumni of Howard. He went to engineering school at Howard University.
So you're familiar with Bison Pride, huh?
I am so familiar with Bison Pride.
Yes.
And now our daughter is at Hampton University.
HU.
Another HU.
Slightly different.
We hear those conversations about which one is the real.
The Mecca. I'm going to go with Howard.
You're going to go with Howard? I think it's probably safe to say that here. So I know in your career, so tell us about your current role and the role you transitioned from. So walk us through making the decision to move from corporate legal as a vice president of Senior Employment Council to Warner Brothers Television as the vice president of Human Resources.
So next month in November, it will be 3 years that I've been a part of the Human Resources organization. Mm-hmm. But I started here at Warner Brothers in 2004. I came in as an employment lawyer, employment counsel, having worked for a couple different law firms and a couple different judges and, my tour around the country, as I told you growing up. So I came in 2004 as an employment lawyer, and one of the clients that I was assigned to initially was Warner Brothers Television. So I became very close with my HR friends and worked with them for 11 and a half years being their employment lawyer. So I got to know the business, the people, not just my HR friends, but people in legal would call anytime, people in production would call with questions, just on various employment issues. So it could be a worry about a discrimination lawsuit that could be coming, or a worry about a current discrimination lawsuit, investigations that we did, sexual harassment, retaliation, any of those, or like wage and hour, paying people, any of those issues that I used to handle on the legal side. So 3 years ago, or about 3.5 years ago, one of my mentors over here in Warner Brothers Television, the head of HR, Beverly Montoya, was retiring, and she asked me if I would consider coming over to HR, which I had never considered ever before in my career because I considered myself solidly a lawyer. I worked very hard to become a lawyer and suffered through the California bar exam, which used to be 3 days, it's now 2. So I was very squarely in the legal arena and considered myself just being a lawyer, but the opportunity came to try something different and to not be a lawyer anymore, but be on what we call the business side. So get closer to the operations and work closely with people that I already knew and respected and appreciated. So not only internally in this HR department, but also the folks at Warner Brothers Television that I had already been working with for many years. So I said, why not? And I tried it, and I guess I have to say, the risk-averse lawyer side of me made it so that I made a deal with them that I could try it temporarily first, and then go back to legal if I didn't like it. But it was pretty soon after I got here, just a few months after I got here, to this shishier building that I'm sitting in now than I was when I was in legal, that I said, I want to stay.
I think I'm going to stay.
Do this. Yeah, so part of my job here is to negotiate executive contracts, which we have a number of executives on contract, and I had never done that before, so it was broadening that skill set, and then managing employee relations issues, of which we have a few, like any other studio. Every employer, I shouldn't just say studios.
That's right.
And then just whatever may come up that we have to do, and I think one of the nice things about it for me is that they appreciate that I used to practice law, and so sometimes they get a little bit of extra free legal advice from me. So it's been nice. It's that transition. I was a little worried about it at first. I didn't know if it was the right thing since I had never envisioned myself as working in human resources. But I have to say now, 3 years later, it was the right decision for me at the time.
Wow. And so you bring up a good point for me, and it's really this question, like she came to you, this is somebody that was a mentor, right? And she came to you and said, hey, Nicole, I think this will be good for you. But how do you evaluate that offer from your side, right? From your perspective, like how do you know when to say no? I mean, being vice president of HR for Warner Brothers Television is a great role, right? Everybody can agree to that. But how do you know it's a good fit for you?
Yeah. No, I mean, I definitely talked to my personal advisory board about it, which involves my husband, my mom, which I'll tell you a funny story about that conversation later, my sister, who also is a former employment lawyer, now doing something else besides the law, and then also my mentor, sponsor, friend, spiritual guide. I mean, that really was one of the people who was instrumental in keeping me here over the years and keeping my spirits up and my morale up, when times get tough, working for any company for this long, you have your ups and your downs. And so just talking to all of those different folks and also sometimes spent in prayer, everything just came to this really is the right decision for me at this time, at this point in my career. I think it's really important to think about the seasons that you have in your life, and if this opportunity had come 3 years into working for Warner Brothers in the corporate legal department, I don't think I would have done it. And it wouldn't have been the right time for me to do it. So it was, at that time, it was 11 and a half years in as an employment lawyer, and having been promoted a couple times and seen lots of different things and worked for lots of different clients at the company, so I had other parts of the studio that I was supporting from a legal perspective. So I had worked with pictures, and I had worked with games, and I had worked on consumer products issues. So I had seen pretty much everything, and so it was a good time to say, hey, I might have done everything I need to do in this role, so what's next? And this just came at, I'm not even going to say a lucky time, it was, in my mind, divine. That it came up at the right time where I was open to it, and it worked out.
So you bring up two things for me. So one is, that's how you say yes. How do you say no? How do you know when to say no?
Yeah, I'll tell you a story. When I first started at Warner Brothers, it was, just like roses and champagne and like every day was just so fabulous to be walking around the lot.
It's Warner Brothers, right?
Warner Brothers, and I might run into this celebrity, and I think I was actually keeping a list of everyone I used to run it. Like, it was exciting, and I would do training for one of our productions and see the stars of insert a name of a show there, and it was just exciting and fun and different. But I also worked for a very demanding supervisor, and things became increasingly difficult. And I remember a time when I was really ready to go, and I was interviewing and looking for another job, and I got an offer to go to another company, and I said no. And it was like, I look back at it now, I'm like, you must be crazy. Like, you were working for this person that you really found difficult to work with, and, why did you say no? And I'll tell you, the reason why I said no was I felt like there was more for me to learn here at Warner Brothers. And I also felt like, in terms of that personal relationship, between myself and my supervisor that I needed to overcome something, which personally was, every time problems come up in your life, you don't just run away.
Absolutely.
Right? And maybe you could call it run away, or you could call it it's toxic, so I'm walking away. And I'm saying I'm making a choice, right, about my life. But I said, I know that there's something that I need to do to learn and grow working for this person. And so going to this other job, which would have been quite easy, same money, in LA, wouldn't have to move. And I just said, you know what, it's not time. It's time for me to figure this situation out while I'm in it. And so I said no to that, but at the same time, I was saying yes to myself and my own growth and figuring things out in my situation here. And I'm so glad I did, because so many other opportunities came out of continuing to work for Warner Brothers.
So we talked about, before we got on the live podcast, a little bit about things that you may do intuitively that would be helpful for other people to know. So one, I was a carryover from the first question. And then this second piece I heard you bring up, it was having a personal advisory board.
Yes.
So I do want you to speak to what a personal advisory board is.
Sure.
And maybe for folks who don't have one, who may have never heard of the concept, kind of how you go about picking out yours.
Yeah.
And then this decision that you made, and please hear me well, this decision to not make a choice for your life based on a personality. How many people work inside of an organization that could be an amazing organization with a lot to offer and a lot of room for growth for you, but because early on you get locked in or tied to a person, it's a personality in a position. And as much as we change inside of these organizations, are you kidding me?
Right.
They may not be there a year from now, 2 years from now. You're going to make a decision for your family, that affects your financial stability, that affects all of these other things in your life based on a personality. And so you intuitively kind of did that without necessarily thinking that way. You were intuitively saying, I haven't learned everything I need to learn here.
Yeah. And the major thing that I needed to learn was how to deal with that personality, right? And not, and I think you encounter things in life where it happens and you kind of, you look past it or you work past it and you don't really hone in on it. And if you don't deal with that situation, it's going to keep coming up in your life. So I think what I realized was you could go to another job. You're going to hit that personality again.
You'd be working for them again.
Different person's name, right? Different title, different place, but that same issue. So how do you pass that test, right? How do you overcome that situation so that you can get ready for the next test, for your next issue that's going to come up, for you to develop yourself? And if you keep saying no to trying to pass the test, then you don't go very far because you keep having to deal with that test. So I think for me, it was really a personal decision for me, and I think it was less about career and opportunities in the career and more about my personal development and growth and being able to deal with different personalities in the workplace and in life. You may have a family member who is like that person. So how do you deal with that? And then, so the personal advisory board question. So I first heard this terminology when I went to the Corporate Council Women of Color Conference back in, I think it was like 2007 or 2008. One of those years. I go to this conference all the time. They have 14 of them now. And so each year, I think that is referenced as check in with indeed we did a panel this year and we talked about your personal advisory board or your personal executive board. And so usually it's just really people that you trust. And so it could be someone in your organization that you're really good friends with. Maybe it's even your supervisor if you have that trust in your supervisor to bring up really serious questions about your career. Or about what's going on in your life. And so for me, it's usually people outside of work because I think I like to have a healthy separation between work and home. And so it's the people that I trust most and will give that much of an entree into for my life. It's going to be family and really, really close friends. So except for the one person I was talking about, Beverly, who I'll mention several times. She had such an effect on me. But anyway, so she worked at Warner Brothers, and then she retired about 4 years ago, and so 3 to 4 years ago. And so that she was, and still is, part of my personal executive or personal advisory board. It could be someone at church. It could be if you're really close to your pastor, or maybe you're close to a deacon or deaconess at your church or something like that, where that person really knows you. Because one of the keys about the personal executive board, if you're going to go to them for advice, like, they need to know you. It can't be that they know someone else. And so they're giving advice to that person, but that doesn't really help you because they don't know you. So people that know you and people who have a vested interest in your success. And by that, I don't mean they're going to financially benefit from it, but more so that they care about you. So they have that interest in your being successful and being fulfilled and happy and at peace in your life. And so I think those people will give you the best advice in which to then make your own decision, because it really should be your decision. Because as I always say in coaching, because we didn't talk about my side gig as a coach, which is,
and I see CTI,
I know
the best.
The Coaches Training Institute. I love them. So
I do CTI as well.
Yeah, so we know that
Yes.
proactive coaching model, right?
coaching,
And
yes.
that we are, we coach from the perspective of the client is
Whole
naturally
and complete.
creative, resourceful, and whole. So
Absolutely.
you already, all the answers are right there in your pretty body, okay?
Mm-hmm.
We just have to figure out a way to pull them out and, bring them up for you. And so you know yourself better than anybody else,
Absolutely.
right? There may be some things you're not willing to admit or that you will deny in public, right?
Right.
But, just knowing yourself and being able to take that advice from people on your personal advisory board and then applying that based on what you know about yourself and what you know you need to be fulfilled.
Love it.
Very long-winded answer.
No, I love it. When I'm listening to you, I was like, she's such the business executive, such the thought leader, because those are the type of folks we interview here at the Life Podcast.
Well, thank you.
And so I'm just curious, what one trend are you really paying attention to right now as it relates to your work?
For work, I have to say it's all about Netflix. So because a part of my role here is making sure that we are able to retain our employees. What can we do for employee engagement, employee retention, and hiring? And so we have had a fair number of folks who have been persuaded to go over to Netflix. And one of the things that we talk about probably every other day, weekly definitely, is how do we make sure that our people know how valued they are here and how we want them to stay here, and we don't want them to go to Netflix because Netflix is paying a lot more money than most of the studios. So I think most of the studios are around, most of the entertainment studios are around the same in terms of their comp packages.
Competitive.
Yes, we're competitive with one another, but Netflix and maybe even other companies like Facebook, Amazon, Hulu, Apple, they're coming into the production game and blowing other studios out of the water in terms of what they can pay. They're more like kind of startup tech companies that pay a whole lot of money or put a whole lot in, I think it's Amazon, put a whole lot in stock. And sometimes people are interested and attracted to that. Yeah, and so we want to make sure that we retain our I struggle with the term top talent. We want to retain the people who are just the most productive and doing the best. And if that is what people define as top talent, then yes, we want to retain our top talent.
And so I'm curious, because this problem that you have is not unique to you or your organization or even your industry. So for all of the leaders out there who are listening, who have this, it is a retention and an engagement challenge. And so in your industry, it could be Netflix, and their industry is something else.
Right.
But it's this struggle or this tension of how do you keep good people, right? How do you keep good people wanting to get up out of bed every day and come work at your organization? Especially when someone's dangling that carrot of,
A huge
more
increase in pay.
Yes.
I think that part of it is listening to what employees really want. What are they looking for? You agree.
I agree. I'm working on an article right now, and I believe that the number one thing you can do for engagement for your people as a leader is so simple, but you have to listen. You have to demonstrate that you care.
Right. So if flexibility is one of those things that people are craving, then how do we do that? And look, Warner Brothers has been around almost 100 years, right? So we are used to doing things a certain way, but one of the things that I appreciate is that we are looking at what are different ways to do things. So can we start talking about flexible work arrangements? When I got here 14 years ago, there will be no talk of flexible work arrangements. It's like you need to be on the lot, FaceTime, it's all very important. Now, it depends on which department you're in. Some people are a little more flexible about being flexible, right? But listening to if this is what people are clamoring for, and if people are saying, well, I'm leaving, I'm going to go to Netflix because they allow me to work remotely like 50% of the time, well, then that means that our people want to work remotely for some portion of time. So how can we make that work if we can make that work? Internal mobility, I think, is another one of those things that we're talking about that people have said they're interested in. Some people want to do the same job for 30 years, but I think if you're looking at millennials and what they're interested in, they don't want to do the same job in the same department for 30 years.
Or even 14 years.
Or even 14 years. And believe you me, it shocks me that I've been, when I say 14 years, I go, wait a minute, is it 14? I have to count. Like, who are we talking about here?
Right.
Because as I told you, my journey, I just moved around at least every 7 years.
Right.
So, to be 14 years here and 19 years living in LA is like, who is this person? Who are you? But I think I'm an Angelino now. I'm not going anywhere.
Yes, the sunshine kind of reels us on in.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, because Life Podcasts, we're all about unpacking your spirit. And so before we jump into that, I just had a question around, what is life trying to teach you right now?
Think about that for a little bit. What is life trying to teach me right now? Well, I spend at least a portion of each day trying to be better connected spiritually. So I've always been a person who believed. There were times when I went to church more often than other times in my life, but not a person who sat down with the Bible very often and really dug in. And so now I've started to where I want to be more connected and more. How can you talk about being a believer and being spiritual if you don't really know the Word? So I've been reading a daily devotional called Jesus Calling every morning.
Amazing!
I love this book. I mean, it's
my favorite devotional.
Yeah, it really just allows you to dig in a little bit, but not feel like you've got to find hours in your day, which are really hard to find.
Right.
And so. But it starts me off each day in the right frame of mind, and I feel like it. So I keep a copy at home, and I have a copy in my office too, and I have a copy of a Bible here too. You never know when you might need it.
Hey,
when you're at
you
work.
never know.
Okay, so I like to be able to refer to some chapter and verse if I need it. I guess maybe you could think of the Bible as being part of your personal executive board, or God being part of your personal advisory board. So I think that one of the things that. To answer your question about that, what is the universe trying to teach you right now? Trying to teach me right now is to be more connected with my purpose on this earth, because I believe we all are sent here with a divine purpose. So what is that? And I am connected with it, and I do it part of the time. I feel like I do it in my coaching, as I'm sure you do too, Anissa, right? And so or when you are meeting with someone where maybe they haven't hired me as a coach, but there's that opportunity to coach, or maybe it's even on a higher level to witness or to really be a part of someone's process, which I find to be an honor. And so I'm trying to do that more and hone in on that. Because I think we get so tied up in the everyday, like, okay, I got to get this done, cross this off the list, get this done, and then where is that time where you were really connected to doing what you were put here to do, like using your gifts? Because you were talking earlier about, what you do intuitively and what you are able to do so easily. It just comes like with a snap of the finger, right? But for other people, it might be more difficult, and their thing that they do so easily might be really hard for you.
Absolutely.
And so for me, connecting, I think I know what it is, and or I know what those things are, and spending more time on that as opposed to the, I just spent an hour on Facebook, or an hour playing words with friends, or whatever it is that is your pastime that kind of keeps you from digging in on doing something that's maybe more purposeful.
So you know what? I hear you saying something that I work with my clients on often. Most executives are busy, right? Right? You're busy. And so I try to shift my clients from being busy to being full, to having their day be filled full, like fulfilled, filled full of things that have meaning, that are important, that they value. When you make those shifts, you might find, oh, it's not necessary for me to be on all those boards. Or it's not necessary, all these
Right.
things that are like distractions
Yes.
that are filling your calendar, that are taking up so much of your time.
Right, right.
But they don't really do a lot for you inside.
Right. It's so true. I mean, I've had this conversation with my husband where I said, I take time away. So we have a 7-year-old, and I'll take time away, and he'll be home with our daughter, and I'll go to a board meeting for a legal organization, a bar association, or I go to a continuing legal education meeting, as I did this morning. And it's like, are those the things I really wanted to, or am I doing that because I feel like I have an obligation? And that takes time. And so that is, to your point, taking time away from what is it that really is like what I call my heart work, right? Like sitting with somebody and helping them process through whatever issue it is of that day that they want to work on, or writing, where you, like you mentioned, you're writing an article or writing a book or really sharing your story with people. And so yeah, I think that's what the universe is trying to tell me. Maybe spend a little less time on Words with Friends. Or
Just a little bit less time.
Or I am a little bit obsessed with Words with Friends. But, and spend more time on your development, your growth.
And so, speaking of your development and your growth, when is the last time you did something for the first time?
The last time I did something for the first time? Oof. Okay. This past Sunday I went to Comic-Con. Which is kind of funny because I really didn't have any interest in going.
You
to
don't strike me as a Comic-Con person. You just don't strike me as a Comic-Con.
I'm really not. I don't have any comic books. I can probably say I've never bought a comic book. There's some in my office that they give to us as employees, but that's the only way I get them. But my husband said, well, why don't we go and we'll get dressed up in our Halloween costumes. And yes, we were all DC characters: Catwoman, the Riddler, and Wonder Woman.
Oh, come on, you gotta represent home.
Yeah, but we got all dressed up, and we went down to the LA Convention Center on Sunday, and we were at Comic-Con, and I even wore my vampy Catwoman heels to walk around the convention center. That was a first.
Nice.
And that might be a last. I don't know if I'll do that again.
Excellent. So now this is my favorite part. So these are kind of rapid fire questions. So I'll ask the question, you kind of give me your answer, your response, without, this is just your top of mind. So your secret sauce. So now we're going to unpack your spirit. So we always talk about unpacking your spirit. So unpacking your spirit is really going to look at what is your secret sauce, your principles that you live by, where you go to get inspiration, your R, those are your rituals, the I, what are you innovating on, the T, the tools that you use. And so this will be unpacking your spirit. So that's this portion. Okay. And so, Nicole, what is your secret sauce?
The secret sauce.
Your secret sauce to success. What is it?
I really do believe in working hard, and I will tell you one of my mom's sayings that she said, and she laughs when I remind her that she used to say this when we were kids, but it was, good, better, best. Never let it rest until the
good is your better and your better is your best.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, there's so many people that haven't heard that.
Well, I know that.
Glad that you've heard that or whatever. So she just thought that was so funny that I would even remember that. You never know as a mom what's going to stick with your kids, right?
Absolutely.
So, but I think what that taught me, and I really use that a lot in law school, like, okay, you wrote this brief, but is it your best? And can it be even better? And keep on working on it until you absolutely can say, I've given it my all. It's the best it can be. I can't see anything else. And I try and do that with most things that I work on. I want to be able to represent and say, that's the best, because it's mine, and I put my stamp on it, which is the good, better, best. So,
I love it. I love that we both have that in common.
Yes.
I love
Is that part of your secret sauce?
Yes,
You'll tell me your secret sauce later.
but that good, better, best, I love it. So tell me, what principle has served you well as a leader?
I would go back to our CTI training, and I think that having curiosity is really... It's hard to remember it sometimes, right?
Right.
But I feel like not just as a leader, Anissa, but also in life, that journey of going through that training, I guess it's like 8 or 9 years ago now, was really life-opening for me. For just really opened all these new doors of I didn't want to be the person who was always monopolizing the conversation anymore. I want to be the person who's listening. And when I listen, I feel like I learn so much more.
Absolutely.
And you get to know people so much more. So as a leader, to answer that question, it's how do we work best with our team? I think we have to, and we were talking about listening to employees earlier, but listening and asking those questions, having that curiosity to ask the next question and the next question and the next question is what really helps you to learn more about them and to be able to frame an answer or an idea to give advice to the folks that we are business partners to.
And it's also asking the questions from a space of trusting that the answer is in the room. So not feeling like the best answer lies with me and I'm just gonna, humor them and ask them the question, but the decision has already been made because I've already weighed everything.
Right.
But really having that genuine curiosity and just saying, hey, and really getting their perspective because people know the difference. They know,
For sure.
right?
If you're not really interested in hearing what they have to say, you're not, you ask a question, but you're not really listening to the answer, people know. Or you get a sense, is this person really listening to me? And, I've worked with a lot of lawyers, and there are a lot of know-it-all lawyers. And I will just admit that I came from a family not of lawyers, but of know-it-alls. And so we know how to be know-it-alls, right? But it is so freeing to open up and say, there are other intelligent people in the room who have opinions that are worthy of being heard. And I'll get my chance to share mine. Or maybe I won't. And that's okay. As long as other people in the room we're listening to them and that they're feeling heard. And that's another thing that I think, people, there's a Maya Angelou quote about people will forget the things that you said, but they will never forget the way that you made them feel.
Absolutely.
Something like that, right?
Absolutely.
And so when people are feeling heard, they feel better.
Absolutely.
So I think that I gotta say that curiosity. I don't want to say I'm 100% like I'm always the best at it, but when I am really honing in on that curiosity and that listening, I think that is what makes me a better leader.
There's a book that I've recommended so many leaders over the years by the Arbinger Institute. It's called Leadership and the Self-Deception. And it is exactly about that. It is about you're a leader, you have your good leader checklist that says, ask about their kids. And you say, how's your son doing? Right? And then it says, inquire to the well-being of their parents. And then you say, how's your mom? Did she get out of the hospital? Your employees know when you don't mean it. So it's not, basically the premise is not what you say. It's not even how you say it. It's how you feel when you're saying it is what gets conveyed to the other person. And that is what they are going to respond to.
Right.
Not just the words that are coming out of your mouth, but that feeling. When they don't care.
It's true. And I tell you, I think one of the other things that I'm sensing in talking about this is that you just, in order to be that type of leader, you have to be okay with showing some level of vulnerability. And so if you're not willing to ever be vulnerable, then good luck connecting with the people that work with you in order to have that relationship to be viewed as a really good leader.
Absolutely.
If you're trying to be perfect and you never want to show that you ever do anything wrong, you never make mistakes, I think that it's really tough for people to connect with you, and then it's really hard for people to view you as a really great leader because we are all human. And that human connection is what brings us closer together.
I have to tell you, when you said you had a funny story from your mom, you made me think about my son when you said that. So I just shared something with him recently about the year I met my best friend was in the 8th grade. And I met her in my history. It was North Carolina history class. And I don't think I learned anything in that class. Nothing. And I was just telling him how that year went for us. And he said, Mom, that is the first time I ever heard you talk about school when you were not a good student. You were not the model student. You were not the perfect student. And I was like, wow, it's just what you said. Because I'm trying to make him do his best.
Right.
I'm on that good, better, best, right? Never let it rest.
And let me tell you how I did it.
Right. I'm trying to. I had a 4.0 GPA. You should do that. You should replicate that. Oh, so I could tell it was inspiring. Oh, you too? Okay. So then I can still do what she did, right? Because everybody has this space that they go through. And so I could just tell that it made me more relatable to my own kid by showing that imperfection, by showing that flaw, if you would.
And it opened up I'm sure, another level of connection.
Absolutely.
That's beautiful.
Absolutely. So I know that when we talk about inspiration, we all get tired. The pace of our lives is just, I always say sometimes the success that we created is just sucking the life out of us. Between, I know for me, 9-hour work days with an hour to an hour and a half commute on either side.
Right.
That was my life for years. And so we all get tired. You get tired. Where do you go for inspiration?
So I would say, one, doing my daily devotional really helps
Uh-huh.
to remind me that there's a higher level to things and a reason why you're here. But the other thing is, I am one to take time to myself. So I'm constantly telling other mothers who feel like they're like, it's all about the kids. I'm like, yeah, it's actually not. There's some part of that has to be for you. And you will be a better mother if you pay attention to yourself. Because if you're so run down, that's why they say the whole airplane thing. Put the mask on yourself first, then put the mask on your child. Take care of yourself first. And so I'm a firm believer in taking care of myself. And I don't say that to say I'm selfish, but I have a Saturday morning ritual where I go to Zumba at 9 a.m. at LA Dance Fit, and I try not to miss any Saturday because that's my time. I have so much fun in that class.
Yes.
And I think, and people say, oh, I saw you smiling so much. And I'm like, yeah, you don't understand how this is my hour to just, is all mine. There's no work, there's no kids,
Freedom.
there's no husband, there's no family, there's no nothing. I put the phone in the purse, in the cubby. Like, it's all about what I'm doing during that, 58 to 60 minute period when the class is going on. And I just love that free time. And so I feel like when you are being active, or at least for me, when I'm being active, then I'm able to sleep better. And when I sleep better, make sure I'm getting my sleep, then I'm more patient and able to be more successful at my job. Able to remember to be curious and all of the things that, we need to be in order to be successful leaders. So it's really, I think, self-care, taking care of yourself whatever it is that you need. If it's, you like meditation. I'm not very good at meditation, so I do my Zumba, and I do my walking and my working out. And making sure that you have that time and I'm very good about getting my sleep. Like, I don't stay up all night because I know I need my sleep, because I know how I am without sleep, because I have a 7-year-old, as I mentioned. And when I didn't have my sleep when she was young, it was rough. So if you know yourself and what you need, and if you need to pull back from, like I was mentioning, going to different board meetings and educational workshops and seminars and leading those sometimes myself, but I know when it's like, okay, I need to pull back and not do those and have a weekend where we don't have any events and I am truly getting my relaxation time in, which I can credit my husband for teaching me how to relax. He actually had to make me learn how to relax.
So that was a question I was going to ask. And so I know I work with a lot of executive women who are moms, so a lot of executive moms. And many of them, well, I can't go work out, on Saturday because I'm a mom, or I can't do this because I'm a mom. And I always say, I'm not impressed. Being a martyr mommy doesn't make you a good mommy.
Right.
It makes you a resentful mommy. Over time, it doesn't make you a better mommy because it's like this badge. I'm sacrificing everything for the kids. No, it makes you a resentful mommy. So my question to you is, what would you say to the people who would want to do that but may feel like it's selfish, or they just don't know how to pull back and unplug and really give themselves permission? Because that's what it is, giving yourself permission to have that thing that's your thing, that recharges you, that renews you, that restores your soul, if you would.
Right. I think that selfish has such a negative connotation to it, right? And we're always trying to say, well, I'm not selfish, or I don't want to seem selfish, I don't want to be selfish or appear selfish, right? But if you're just going to go on ahead and think that a 1-hour workout over a 48-hour weekend is selfish, then go on ahead and be selfish, okay? Just go on ahead and be that and own that and say, I'm being selfish, I'm going to take my 1 hour. But I'll bet you, because I want to get back to, I don't think it's selfish, and I think if you asked a whole bunch of people, they wouldn't think it was selfish either. So do a little poll. Ask about 10 other moms, maybe some people in your family, maybe some people outside of your family, because, definitely some people outside of your family, because our personal thoughts about what is and what isn't selfish is definitely molded by how we grew up and
Absolutely.
what voices we're hearing in our head from our parents, from our
Absolutely.
aunties or grandmothers or whatever. And so take it outside of that realm. And if you maybe do a Facebook poll, you'll get a lot of people to weigh in. But I think what will be nice for that person is to hear other people champion your right to have a little bit of time to yourself.
Yes.
And what's interesting about that, and kind of sad, is that other people are going to be clamoring for you to do this, and yet you are resisting for your own self when it's for you. But I think we as women need to support one another in terms of encouraging us to take care of ourselves. Because I'll go back to what my mentor said to me when she retired. I wished I hadn't spent so much time at work, on work, not paying attention to my health. Because in the end, it wasn't worth it. So I say, I'm going to pay attention to my health because it's important for my daughter and for my husband. I want to be there. And for me, you know, work, yes, I don't think I could be a person who didn't work, okay? But it is also a means to an end, and it is not my life. And that's why I don't work at a law firm. I'm not a partner at a law firm. I'm not so ambitious as to want to run Warner Brothers one day, because when you run Warner Brothers or run Warner Brothers Television, or even run one of the departments, it becomes your life. And I don't want my job to be my life. I'm cruising towards retirement. I'm not that close, but I'm cruising towards retirement. I'm not, you know, and so if that makes me not ambitious, then I guess in some people's eyes that makes me not ambitious. For me, it makes me value things other than, it's not just all about work. It's not the only reason that I'm here on this earth.
Right. When I hear you say that, it's clarity. What I hear is you're clear about what's important to you.
Yes.
You're clear about what you value and what has meaning for you. And so you're unwilling to give up your whole life for a title and, you know, a big salary that comes with that title, but you don't get to enjoy the lifestyle. Sometimes they go with the title and the salary.
Right.
And so so I love that clarity. I love that level of clarity.
I love how you described it. I am very clear. I feel very clear.
Yeah, I've been listening because I know what it sounds like to be stuck and overwhelmed and frustrated. So I see that a lot. And so it's very refreshing to see people in that space of clarity. Now, I don't know if when you lived in D.C., if you used to ever listen to Kathy Hughes' radio station. And
it was so long ago, I cannot recall.
Yeah,
Perhaps.
like they had like Joe Madison and all these folks who were on her station. But there was this one guy on there, Brother Bay, and he was a health advocate. And he used to say, I love this when he would come on. He would say, your God will forgive you for what you do to your body, but your body won't. So when you were talking about your mentor and all these folks that we know who sacrifice their health, we kind of treat our health like when we get ready for it, it'll be ready for us.
Yeah.
Like I'm gonna not get rest. I'm not gonna eat right. I'm not gonna take the time to move my body. And when I get to this certain point, whatever that thing is, a certain level, I'm going to start focusing on those things. I'm going to start getting my rest. But oftentimes, that window closed.
Right. And tomorrow is not promised, right?
Absolutely.
So I want to make sure I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing right now, because I don't know exactly what the future holds. And so live your life now, not live it later on or plan for living it later. Well, I'm going to live in a few years when I retire. No, you can live it now.
Absolutely.
And I think those choices are really important because, you know, I was struggling with, when do I have time to work out? I don't have time to work out every day. But the reality is, like you mentioned, getting up at 4:30 in the morning, right? If I really want to work out every day, I need to get up at 4:30 or 5 o'clock in the morning based on my schedule and my commute and how much time I need to be at work and what needs to be done. And I can do that. It's just, do I want to? Do I value the sleep or do I value the working out?
Because I need more sleep.
If I want
As
more
evidenced
sleep,
by what time I get up.
Right.
I'm lacking in the sleep department. So that's one of the things I'm working on for myself. Is and a friend of mine, talk about polling your friends. She just said this to me yesterday. I was like, I got rest over the weekend. Like I got more rest I probably have gotten in a long time.
Yeah.
And she said, kudos to you for loving on yourself. And I was like, I'm going to hold that as my frame. I'm going to look at getting rest as loving on myself, because I'm notorious for self-care. I love self-care. Like I'm all about self-care. And so looking at it that way,
Yeah.
just holding it in that frame, I think it'll make it easier for me to say, oh, I got to shut this down because
Right.
I'm about to love on myself and go to
Yes.
sleep. I'm not going to
Yes.
push myself. When you're building and growing a business, and especially coming out of corporate, I said I would not work harder for my former organization than I work for myself.
Work for yourself.
So if I work 9 hours for them, I'll work 12 hours for myself.
Mm-hmm.
And I love what I do.
Right.
I get to meet people like Nicole Hancock husband and talk about life to help
Yeah.
people live inspired fully every day.
Right.
This is my job.
Yes.
Are you kidding me? So it's easy for me to go around the clock. But I
get
also
lost in
have
it.
to remember, right? I mean, there have been times my husband will come to my home office, he'll come to the door, it's like 2 a.m. and he will not even say anything. He'll just look at me like, seriously? Like really?
Yeah. But you got lost in it sounds
Right,
like. Like you're
right.
so into
Right.
it. Like you don't the time has gone by and you don't necessarily
Flow.
have a sense
When you
that
get in
love
flow,
what you're doing.
When you get into flow.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, okay, baby,
Yes.
I'm coming right
Right.
now. Like, let me wrap this up. And that could
Yeah.
still be another hour because he'll go back to sleep so he
It was
doesn't
that
know.
one more thing thing, right?
Right.
You know, it was, just
Right.
one more email, just one more call. I just got to do one more thing,
Just
one
one
more
more.
thing, and then an hour goes by.
And we realize the world is not going to come to an end
Right.
if, like, you don't wordsmith that last bullet on a chart
Yeah.
so that it's exactly
I know.
correct. Or the things that we really wrap ourselves around the pole.
Right.
It's really what your mentor said at the end of your career.
Mm-hmm.
And if you project even to the end of your life, nobody's going to look back and say, I wish I had worked, more hours.
No.
I wish I had,
No.
done this other work accomplishment. Even though they're great things to accomplish, you really want to be active and present in your real life.
And intentional. Like when you were talking just now, I just kept thinking, being intentional about I'm going to shut it down at 11 no matter what, no matter where I am. And sometimes I have to do that at work. Like, okay, even though I could spend another half hour, responding to emails and making that one last call or whatever, I want to be home. And I know it takes me an hour to get home. So I need to leave at time X and I've got to force myself to do it. So it's like creating that boundary and saying I will not work beyond 6:25 so that I
Absolutely.
can get on the road and be home in time to have dinner with my child and be able to review homework and see my child before my child goes to sleep and read her a story and all of that. And if those things are really important, then we have to be intentional and prioritize it and say that email can wait until tomorrow, or correcting that last bullet can wait until 6 a.m. when you
Right.
spring out of bed.
Right, exactly. So you talked about your Saturday morning ritual. So I'm going to ask you about innovation, the I for innovation. So what are you doing now to reinvent yourself? Really, to reinvent yourself or your team or even your organization as you look at the imminent threats with some of your competitors.
It's interesting. Am I really doing something to innovate right now?
That's why I ask people this question because
Yeah.
most people aren't. So I want you to
You're
be doing
inspiring
that.
me to
Yes.
innovate, to
Yes.
be more innovative. It's funny, a few years ago, this term was being used here so much on the lot, like innovation. We want innovative ideas, and I kept thinking, but I'm just not that creative. Like, what are
I'm an attorney.
innovative
Right,
ideas?
right.
I deal with. You come to me with a problem.
Right,
and
you
I
guys are the
try and give you an
creatives.
answer.
I
Right.
keep you straight.
Right. I just, what is this innovation thing? And so for me, I'm trying to grow a side business of, working in the coaching realm and working in the speaking realm and trying to sit myself down to write something because I believe like as the things I've talked about today, all these ideas are swirling around in me that need to be written down somewhere, even if it's just a book for my daughter to read at a certain point, though I think maybe there's some other people that might benefit from those pearls of wisdom, but like it's not, it hasn't happened yet. So I need to work on my innovation if that's an okay answer to give.
Absolutely, it's
I need to
okay.
work on it.
And so all I would ask the coach and me is like when we sit down to have tea, I'm going to ask you about it for accountability. I'll be
Yes.
your accountability
I
partner
love that.
around
I'll take that.
around your innovation.
Yes.
Yes,
My
indeed.
homework here. Here's the homework that I am willing to take on for today. For me to spend some time thinking about
Excellent.
how I can be more innovative.
Oh, I
and
love
bring
that.
To my,
I love
to
that.
my daily, to my weekly,
Yes.
to my monthly, just to those goals.
Absolutely.
And I'm getting there.
I love it. I love it. I can't wait to have our follow-up conversation offline to
Indeed.
talk about that.
I love that. I haven't even hired you as a coach. I take it. I'll
Hey,
take
we'll
it.
do it. We'll do it. So, tools. Name 3 tools you use to help you stay on top of your game. Now, this can be an app that you use. It could be a service like a grocery delivery or Blue Apron or something. But what are 3 tools that you use to help you stay on top of your game?
I feel like I couldn't do it without my Microsoft Outlook. Like I put every reminder on there possible, whether it's life stuff, family stuff, work stuff, like, and it gives me it's on the calendar. Put it on the calendar. So I am a firm believer in that calendar. That's my old school one. My newer school one in terms of an app. So my husband and I just got Wunderlist, which a coworker of mine suggested, and I just didn't, as is par for the course. I just didn't do for the longest, and now that I've done it, it's just no more writing down grocery lists or did you get this or did you forget that, and it's all just right there, and it's like checked off. He got it. I don't have to stop by the grocery store on the way home or something like that.
Right.
It sounds silly, but it's really made our life easier when it comes to grocery shopping. So that one makes it easier. And then I guess the other thing is texting instead of like leaving voicemails and long drawn out phone calls and trying to get everybody on the phone. It's like, ooh, a group text is just as easy as, but it feels like you can get things communicated faster that way. And so not even, I know some people are like, no, it's instant messaging. It's not even texting. And I'm like, well, for me, it's texting. I'll get to instant messaging.
Well, see, I feel like instant messaging is a disruption for me because I work in time blocks. So if things are popping up, notifications, I turn off all notifications while I'm working. So, but a text message, for me, that's probably the best way to get in contact with me. That's probably the best, most
I love
efficient
that you say
way.
you work in time blocks, because I was reading this book, Kathy Black's Basic Black, where, she's not in my industry at all. She's a publisher at Hearst, but someone suggested her book and I read it, and she was suggesting...
Say the book again because everybody knows
Basic Black by Kathy, Cathie, I believe, Black, Black. And so this book, one of the things that she suggests is because email can be so intrusive, because you're working, you're trying to focus on a project or something like that, and then an email comes in and now you're torn away and then trying to dig back into it. So have your, if you call it executive time, where you block out, this is my hour to work on this project. I will not be looking at email during that time. I will not be taking phone calls unless they're urgent, because I need to focus on this. And that way, once you dig in, like you were digging in at 1 a.m. in the morning or 2 a.m. in the morning, like you're really focused and you can get it all out. And then you can get to the email after that. But we're so like moving like this and I gotta check this text, I gotta check this email. And we're constantly running back and forth to things. And how do we really give our best to a document or a project or a matter if we're being pulled in all these different directions and we don't set that boundary? Just say, I will not look at instant messages or texts or emails for that hour or whatever the time block is that you set for working. So
I love how you say for an hour. So for me, time blocking is one of my secret sauces. Time blocking, and so what it looks like is like 3 or 4 hours. Because this is what I found. So when I was inside of corporate, I worked on the West Coast. The person who I reported to worked on the East Coast. And so, as an employee, you always want to feel like you're present and accounted for. So I was always checking email and doing all these things, but it really interrupts your workflow. And so now I will block off the amount of time I think it's going to take to do this task. And it normally takes you longer than what you anticipate when you're planning it, right? And so I'll block off the time and I'll say from 9 to 12, I'm working on A, B, C, whatever that is. And I'll just work on it. And this is what I found. We're not rocket scientists, right? We're not brain surgeons. So, like, if somebody was trying to reach you and they actually didn't get you, I don't even care if it was the head of this whole place. It wouldn't stop making money.
Oh no, it's not a shutdown operation.
No, and this is this is kind of how we feel. This is how we act, right? We function as if we feel like the place is no longer going to be profitable. So in my time block, I'll check my messages at 11:30, kind of just before the lunch hour. So if somebody needed something from me before lunch.
Yeah.
I could respond to them.
Right.
And maybe about an hour or so before the end of my workday.
Yeah.
So that I'm not constantly
doing that. Yeah.
right. If I have
love that.
if I have a task that I really need to deliver on, I don't work that way every day. If I just am doing, regular types of things.
Right.
But if it's something I really, what I call my thinking work,
Yes.
then I will block that time off. And that's how you get things done.
It's true.
That's how you get things done.
You set a boundary.
Set a boundary.
Till 11:30.
So this is my last question
Okay.
as we complete the unpacking of your spirit for the Life podcast. And that last question is this. What's the one thing that you recommend to Life podcast listeners to help them live inspired fully every day?
I'm thinking of something my dad used to say all the time. It sounds really simple, but he used to say, nothing beats a failure but a try. And when I say that to people, they kind of go, like, what do you mean? Basically, you don't get if you don't ask, if you don't try. And so you have to try. And we used to always talk about it in the form of, like, should I go for this job? Should I go for this interview? Should I accept this, opportunity to explore this, or this time to explore this opportunity? And my dad used to say, like, well, you don't have a decision to make until you get the offer, right? So of course,
Right.
Go talk to people, you find out more, they find out more about you. You might not even get the offer. So then you've agonized for no reason, right? So nothing beats a failure but a try. Try it. And this can be anything. I'm talking about it in the context of, like, a job offer or an opportunity when it comes to a career. But, like, if you have always wanted to try burlesque dancing, I can tell you a place to go and try it.
Right.
And, well, I don't think I'm going to be good. Well, how do you know? You never tried it. So try these things. You want to try riding a bike down, up and down a big hill? I don't know. Whatever it is for you. What is that thing that you want to try? Try it. And just because you try it and you're not fantastic at it, that doesn't mean you failed. What you've done is try it. So focusing on is all about perspective, right?
Absolutely, all about
Focusing
perspective.
on what you have tried and how far you've come, how brave it was for you to try this thing that you were always fearful of, or just nothing beats a failure but a try. The try wins.
What a perfect way to end. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
This has
you.
been great.
As always, we thank you for taking the time to listen to the Life, Live Inspired Fully Everyday podcast. If you enjoyed the show, by all means, subscribe. While you're at it, do your friends, colleagues, and family a favor and share. There are thousands of podcasts available in iTunes, so help others to make the same choice you did by leaving a review. We love to hear from you, so leave us a question and maybe we'll select your question to answer on our next episode. The show notes that list all of the books, tweetables, and companies we referenced are all available at lifebyanisa.com. Until next week, I am Anisa Rashad, executive coach and leadership strategist, challenging you to live inspired fully every day.